Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. You know, I never said this, and I'm just thinking of it. It's almost hard to grasp, but right now, as you watch this, as you listen to this, you're unconscious. You are unconscious. I know it doesn't seem that way. And when we say unconscious, right away you think of maybe watching TV and somebody has passed out and you know their eyes are closed, whatever it might be. That's what we are at this moment in many, many regards, because our subconscious, i.e. unconscious mind, is piloting pretty much 90% of what we do every day. And within that unconscious mind are things that don't support us. Maybe it's you can't stop smoking. Maybe you have anxiety, depression. How you fix that? You tap into the subconscious and make some tweaks, make some suggestions. Tell it what you really want. We're going to talk about that today. It's all about hypnotherapy, and he supports a lot of people with this. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about some of the unconventional ways that it can help you. I'm fascinated by this. It's amazing. Dennis Marciniak joins us again on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Steve. Nice to be here again.
Good to have you back here and validating things that I've learned over the years. I've done hypnotherapy, been hypnotized, game changer, fabulous. Any moment, any day you want to hypnotize me, I say when, I'm there. It's just wonderful to realize what's going on within our minds. We talked about it briefly before, but I feel it bears repeating and going a little bit deeper in terms of being unconscious. Am I right in saying that we're unconscious right now? For not fully unconscious, but we're unconscious.
Definitely. There's so much that we're not aware of. I mean, even if you think about the room temperature, for example, you weren't thinking about the room temperature until I bring it up.
Right.
And you're aware of it if you choose to focus on it, or if it's extremely hot or if it's extremely cold. But a lot of times there's so much that we're aware of that we're not consciously aware of. It's just, it's there in our unconscious. And again, if someone brings our attention to it, then we can become aware of it. If I take a lemon and I show you a lemon and I start describing the tartness of the lemon, often people will actually start to salivate. We actually have, can have a physical effect just by the mental suggestion. And so those are aspects of hypnosis and getting into the unconscious part that's basically on autopilot for most of us through most of our day.
So we refer back to experiences, and it could be in childhood. Much of this is, and that really dictates how we act as an adult. We're running off the child program, what we experienced back then, to pilot us as adults. Now, I'm curious, what if somebody has never tasted a lemon, never smelled one, maybe never even saw one, and you mentioned the lemon? They're not going to experience that tartness, that doesn't exist at that moment because they didn't experience it once before.
Correct. That's true. The unconscious is based on our experiences, our life experiences, and we start accumulating all these experiences. Some of them are positive, some are negative, and they start shaping our responses to certain stimuli. So yes, if you haven't, I mean, there's an old story where they talk, the old guru talks about the mango and trying to describe the mango, and you can't really know the mango unless you experience it. So yes, you need to have that experience first.
Well, I guess another example would be, we've both been on roller coasters, and you were on one. You had a great, as a kid, fantastic time, loved it, just laughing. And to the day as an adult, you love going on roller coasters. Sign me up. It's the most craziest roller coaster there is. You're on it. I may have been on a roller coaster as a kid, and it was a scary situation. As a matter of fact, it got stuck when we were up very high. I remember that. I'm hypothetical here. I was 7 years old. Oh my gosh. Well, here I am as an adult. I don't even remember that scenario because it was when I was a kid. But I don't know what it is, Dennis. I have a fear of roller coasters. I don't even go near one, even in an amusement park with kids. Yeah, Dad, can we go on it? No, Dad's not feeling good today. And you're deathly afraid of it, but you don't know why. It goes back to that childhood experience, and it's buried in our subconscious. Is that kind of an example for what's going on for the
Oh,
most part?
that's an excellent example, and there are so many different fears and phobias. People have fear of heights, a fear of flying,
Sure.
um, you know, driving on the freeway, even for some people, uh, it's rooted somewhere
Mm,
in our previous life's experience. The beauty of hypnosis is that we don't necessarily have to figure out what that initial event was that created some limitation.
mm,
There's no need to actually. The subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, if it's directed, it's almost like you can do a Google search. You can by suggestion suggest to the unconscious mind to to look at all the different various connections that created a neural pathway to this particular fear or this particular phobia, and you can actually ask the unconscious mind to disconnect any of those unproductive associations, connections, responses that get triggered when you're in a situation that goes back to, again, whether you're fear of of heights or fear of roller coasters and so forth. So it's not even that the conscious mind has to grasp everything. If we instruct or suggest to the unconscious mind to do a search, it's fascinating what it comes up with. There's a doctor. He's actually here in California. I think he's in Orange County. Steve Berman, and he's a surgeon, but he's also a hypnotherapist. And he often asks people when they come in the office, um, because they're coming for a particular medical reason. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I don't treat medical issues, but he suggests to people to just peruse their own unconscious mind and ask the question, why now? Why are you here now? What in a sense, what triggered your medical issue? Because there's often an emotional component that's behind it. So that's kind of a fascinating aspect of the unconscious mind.
well, thanks for explaining that because I always assumed that you needed to pinpoint where the source was in your subconscious mind. I know when I did hypnotherapy, I said, take me back to my childhood because, in my understanding, most of it comes from there. So, yeah, let's go back.
Mhm.
And there wasn't
Yeah,
anything major wrong. But,
yeah,
on the roller coaster level, it's also the things you hear, not just the physical experience. So, you on that roller coaster as that 7 year old, your dad could have said, get on, man, we're going to have a great time. Woo, it's going to be fantastic.
mhm,
Me, my mom could have said, make sure that the seatbelt is tight. Keep your hands in. Hold on tight to that bar. Hold on tight. All right. You good with that? And that could be, I forgot about that. That could be a reason why I have a fear. Again, hypothetically, I'm not a big fan of roller coasters anyway, but maybe there's a reason why. I don't know. It could be anything. Fear of passing out. That could happen on a roller coaster. And that could have been, back in childhood. Maybe you almost passed out. There's so many different things that can be in our subconscious that really is holding us back, right?
correct. With the example you gave with your mother, she's basically prepping you for fear. She's conditioning you, getting you into a state where you're looking for something to be afraid of. And again, those are neural connections, especially, maybe with a parent situation, there are probably many times when that same parent prepped you for fear in other situations, not just the roller coaster. So you've got
Mm,
neural connections that are part of, in a sense, it created your survival mode to deal with these
mm, mm.
constantly threatening situations that
For
you're,
for for sure, Dennis. My mom,
yeah,
love her. We had a great relationship. She passed 6 years ago. I still feel her presence. That's a different story. Um,
yeah,
she was overprotective. So
yeah,
I see what you're saying. It's almost like you have a power cable and it feeds you, feeds the power to you. If that is, the fear cable, and it's fortified throughout your childhood of, your parents or a parent saying things like preparing you for the worst, preparing you for fear. Um, the cable is just there, and it's a it's a common thread through your entire
right,
life, and it comes from a
right,
good place. And maybe, my mom's mom, grandma, she might have been the same way. Guess what I did when my kids were younger?
sure. Yeah.
Same exact thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely generational in many cases,
Yeah.
and like you say, then you become the parent, and sometimes I would catch myself. All of a sudden, I'm like my father. I'm saying the same things and telling the same stories, and it's like, well, wait a second. Let's reevaluate. Let's take a step back. Let's take another look at this and see if there isn't a better way of approaching it. And
Yeah.
I and that can be on the conscious level, but if you look at it on an unconscious or subconscious level, the beauty is that the unconscious is so resourceful that if you even just suggest it to be more resourceful, to be more creative, to be more productive, it'll recalibrate, and it'll find a more creative, a more successful solution or reaction. Because oftentimes it's a reaction that sends us over the edge, so to speak.
Mm.
Uh, how am I reacting to the forces around me or the incidents around me? The things that are triggering me that upset me or send me into a fear mode or an anger mode. I mean, anger is just fear. Anger is actually a secondary emotion. It's fear based,
Yeah.
and you go to a therapist or a psychiatrist and you want to deal with anger. Well, the psychiatrist will probably give you some medication. The therapist, well, let's talk about it. The beauty is though that we have, again, the uh, the unconscious has the capacity to help sort through and recalibrate so that your responses aren't necessarily automatic and triggered by the same thing over and over again. So it's kind of like a sense of a freeing feeling. I've got new options, and don't have to just fall back into my old pattern.
I have an instant picture of your subconscious being your GPS. And remember back in the day when you'd be driving and GPS would say, even before it was on your phone, you'd buy a separate GPS, unit,
Right,
and it would
right,
say
right,
recalibrating. And then you'd have to wait. It would have to figure out where you are. That's what
right,
this
right.
sounds like. You have to recalibrate your subconscious GPS, because if it's taking you on a road that you don't want to go down, you have to recalibrate. But the only way to recalibrate is to get into the subconscious with
Yeah,
your help. And just to reiterate what we talked about previously, you're not doing anything to our mind. You're not, putting a little whammy on us, making us do. No, you're the key to allow us into our subconscious so we can realize it and make the change and then have a better outcome. Let's talk about some of those other things that hypnotherapy, hypnosis can help out with. Test taking. Let's say somebody's got a big exam coming up. They, normally have anxiety. Now it's elevated. It can help with that.
absolutely. And part of it is maybe even understanding a little bit about how the brain works. I mean, when we're feeling stressed, we're we're going into the more ancient part of our brain. It's called the reptilian brain, and in that mode, it's fight or flight. I mean, going back to the caveman days when we encountered a saber-toothed tiger, uh, you either got your spear and got ready to fight it, or you fled. Now in modern society, we can't always fight or flee a situation. So we've adapted by coming up with the freeze mode, where all of a sudden you just freeze in place and just hope that particular incident will fly by. So anyway, with tests, it tends to bring up anxiety, and what happens is it shuts off the frontal lobes, because when you're in a time of fight or flight or freeze, it's not the time to be overanalyzing. It's not the time to direct your energies to the stomach and the digestion of your food. All your energy is going to be directed towards your reptilian brain, and you're going to be dealing with, again, that threat, so to speak. So it's important to get to a place of relaxation. You're actually going to, I mean, you if you've studied, if you haven't studied, that's a whole other thing. But if you have studied, the information is there. So just relax and allow your own body to access the information that's already stored in your brain. So by going through hypnosis, number one, through the power of suggestion, sometimes we'll even do a visualization under hypnosis where you're visualizing the actual test-taking room or the test-taking situation. So in a sense, you're doing a dry run to familiarize yourself with the environment, so that when you walk into that environment, you're feeling calm, and then you're trusting your own capability. Again, the information is there. I just need to draw on it, and I can't draw on it if I'm in this state of fear, because the energy is going elsewhere. The energy is going, to my limbs so that I can run, or my fists so that I can fight. But you need to allow, in that relaxation response, to access the information that's already there.
Now, when you use the word suggestion during a hypnosis session, how is that taking place? And you can give a hypothetical situation. Let's say smoking. Let's just, one of the more popular ones, and many of us know that hypnosis supports that to help somebody stop smoking. Where does the suggestion come in? Are you saying something while the person you're working with has hypnotized and make a suggestion about not smoking? How does that go?
Well, with any client, before the actual session, I mean, we'll discuss why they're there. And even in that setting, often I will actually have them write down why they're there, because the process of writing forces them to access their own unconscious a little bit more than just coming off the top of their head. Writing is actually something called an ideomotor device. The reason why people can do handwriting analysis is because there's more of our unconscious that comes through our handwriting and is shown on the page. It has to do with, the various strokes on the pen. It has to do with how wide the margins are, so forth. So
thank you for sharing that, because I've been saying it for years, that the connection between the mind and the hand and the pen or pencil, whatever, almost solidifies what's going on within your head. And it's scientifically proven. You could you could type, on your phone, a keyboard. It's not the same as physically writing it down. I want to be the smartest person in the room. So what do you call that?
Ideomotor device.
Ideomotor device. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. You have people write it down beforehand. Yeah. It's almost as if it's real. Like Lee Iacocca, big car guy back in the days, he always used to say, if it isn't written down or in print, it doesn't exist. Now, when you write it down, it exists. It is now real because it's coming from your subconscious. All right, so we've written it down. We've identified what change they want to make. Somebody wants to stop smoking. What comes next, and where does the power of suggestion come in?
Well, with smoking is actually a little bit more of a complex behavior because you do have the chemical nicotine that is addictive. That's part of it, but nicotine actually is out of your system within 48 to 72 hours. So the lion's share of dealing with smoking has to do with your habit patterns and the emotions that are connected to it. You associate smoking with, the first time after having sex, or first thing in the morning, or when you drive your car, you're relaxed and you like to light up. So there are a lot of emotional connections attached with that. So part of the learning process before we actually go into hypnosis is getting a sense of what some of their triggers are, some of their favorite times to smoke. Often it's very much a coping mechanism to deal with stressful times or stressful situations, or sometimes it's just a social thing. They really look forward to that cigarette break at the office when they can go outside and hang out with the other smokers and socialize.
Yeah. So thank you. There's a lot going on there that I didn't realize I don't smoke.
Yeah.
So we just use that as an example. How would you make the suggestion to not smoke? Are you telling them something?
Well, yes. And in part, it's not necessarily so much directed towards not doing something, because again, the unconscious really doesn't process negative very well. But often it's a process of pulling in different parts of yourself, and we call it parts therapy. But it's almost as if I would summon the different aspects of your person to serve as resources to help, in a sense, uncouple some of these neurological connections that have been made by creating this habit pattern. So the suggestion might be more towards using your own inner resources to view or look at the patterns that you've created around smoking, and then suggest to the unconscious mind to disconnect those connections. It sounds silly in some respects because it's such a literal thing that you're asking your own unconscious mind to make various connections break and be torn, and yet it's amazing at how our brain responds and works with that. So again, it's not don't do this, don't do that. It's a focus on creating more effective ways of dealing with stress or dealing with loss. I mean, in some situations, if in the pre-hypnosis talk, I find out that, okay, you like to smoke to relax. Well, what other things do you do to relax? So then he tells me that he likes to work out, or he likes to listen to music or whatever. So then in the hypnosis session, I will suggest, in those times of stress, in those times of anxiety, rather than lighting up, listen to some music. Rather than lighting up, go put your gym shorts on and go work out. So it's creating alternative responses during those times where you normally would respond by resorting to smoking.
The mind is fascinating. It really is. For good or for worse, it really is. But it can be recalibrated, and hypnosis is the answer to that. How do we connect with you, Dennis? How do we find you? How do we start the process?
My website is unconsciousedge.com. My email and phone numbers are on that website. There's also a ton of information there. May answer some of your unasked questions about hypnosis. And again, I do Zoom sessions, or I do in-person sessions. I have an office in, not far from here. So that's the best approach.
Great talking with you today. Thanks for deeper insight. Having done hypnosis, know a little bit, but you really brought a lot to light, and it's been great being unconscious with you today.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Same.
Thanks, Steve.
Right. We'll catch up next time. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.